Welcome back to WEGS Garage. One thing we haven't finished up here on our 1964 Triumph TR4 is getting the crankcase ventilation port hooked up to the carburetors on this later style TR4 engine. We actually could not find the little Y piece that went in here for the longest time, but look what we got here. This is the flame arrestor, and today we're going to get this hooked up. We're going to run all the tubing to the air filters, show you how we got into these new air filters that don't necessarily have the port for that in it. And yeah, that should do it. Stay tuned. All right, now there's three different styles of crankcase ventilation that were used on this engine over the years, from the TR3 up to the later 4As. The older style had a snorkel tube that mounted to a port on the side of the engine block. That was just a really simple system, just directly vented the crankcase. And then in the later years, they actually added a PCV valve that mounted up in this area and tapped into a port here on the intake manifold. But what we have is like the middle version, which used this little Y pipe to connect a hose from this port on the valve cover to here, and then one hose into each of the air cleaners, and that's where the vapors from the crankcase would vent out back into the intake and kind of keep the vapors from getting to the atmosphere. So it's a pretty simple system, but the issue is we don't have a port here for the hose to go into the air filter. So we're going to add that with some simple plumbing fittings. I'll show you that in a second, and get this thing in here, and that's it. All right, so here's our air filters off the car. Hey, real quick, look at how nice and clean it is in here right now. We got new pegboard, new shelf full of parts, same old dad. Anyway.
It's organized.
Well, we'll see if we can ruin that here eventually. All right, here's our air filters off the car, and here's the hardware we got to make this happen. I've got two 1/8" NPT by 5/16 hose barbs that we're going to put in the air filter right in the center here. We're just going to drill a little hole there, and then we'll put a washer here to kind of help hold it off there. And on the back side, we're going to just use this cap to kind of screw on there and hold it in place, almost like a nut on the back side. The only thing we're going to have to do to make this work is we'll have to drill a hole through the cap. So it won't be much of a cap then, will it?
No, then it's not a cap.
Yeah, it's just a nut then. So we're going to do that now. All right, there they are. Worked pretty well. It doesn't quite look like the original version. Also, I think the original had round filters, but this will functionally work really well for this. So should be all right. We'll get it installed on the car. Also for this project, we've got some 5/16 fuel hose we're going to use for these connections. And then this is some 3/8, which is a little bit of a stretch to get on the port on the valve cover, but holds it pretty nice and tight once you do get it on there, so we're going to use that and get that all put back together. All right, so there it is. We got our flame trap installed here. The air filters are back on. Everything looks pretty good. It's not exactly like the original, but function is the same. And yeah, it'll work really well. Does its job, I guess. Which isn't much, but there it is. All right, so that's all there is to it. I did want to mention one other option that people say you can do is if you do find an old air filter that has the little spots for the hoses to hook up, you can replace the media on that. So maybe look around on eBay or something, see if we can't find a more original filter. But for now, this looks like it's going to work just fine. So thanks so much for watching. The weather's getting nice here, and I would say possibly by next week, we're going to be pushing this car outside, starting it up and going for some drives, so you won't want to miss that. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.